Remember in 2020 when we all collectively decided, I'm done. I'm done with hustle culture. I don't want to bust my ass anymore working because I don't dream of labor. We called it the soft life, or quiet quitting, where it was once a badge of honor to brag that you only slept 4 hours because you were up working. Now having boundaries at work became the new brag. We stopped chasing promotions and started chasing peace. But I've noticed an interesting shift lately. The vibe has changed. People are back to rising grinding. They're waking up early and focusing on discipline. They're working on growing their career or building a side hustle. So what happened? How do we go from quitting the grind to reinventing it? Let's talk about it. First, let's rewind to before the pandemic. Hustle culture was all the rage. If you looked anywhere online, the rhetoric was that you needed to grind in order to earn your bread.
The goals that you want to achieve in your life are your f***ing goals and nobody else's.
It comes from grinding through those late nights. It comes from grinding through those early mornings. It comes from those exhausting days where every fiber of your body is telling you to give up.
But then 2020 hit. The pandemic forced life to a halt. And that pause had us all reanalyzing what's really important to us. We were burnt out, not only from the hustle mindset that had been shoved down our throats, but we were burnt out by the pandemic. The uncertainty, isolation, and political chaos were exhausting.
Today, the World Health Organization officially announced that this is a global pandemic.
Some people were getting laid off. Meanwhile, essential workers had to work overtime in the line of fire, risking their life every day for a disease that at the time, no one really knew exactly how it spread or how dangerous it was. Do you remember that part of the pandemic? And yet another group of people went from working in the office 5 days a week to working from home full time, where they realized they don't actually need to put in 8 hours a day. There were many different situations, but we all came to the same conclusion. I don't want to do this anymore. The world stopped, and for the first time in a long time, we had the space to ask, what are we doing this for? Many jobs pay you exactly the same, whether you do the bare minimum or whether you go above and beyond. So what's the point? For many of us, being at home 24/7, day in and day out, with our pets or our loved ones, had us rethinking what's really important in life. And we realized that we don't want to live to work anymore.
What do I want for my life? Do I want to continue working the way that I have? Or do I want something different? Do I also want to be able to enjoy my family? Do I also want to be able to enjoy my life?
Enter the soft life movement. A lifestyle centered around comfort, relaxation, and minimal stress. A peaceful existence where you prioritize well-being and life's pleasures over hustling at your job. We realized that we deserve to cherish every moment of this fleeting life, to slow down and live a life of ease. You couldn't go anywhere online without seeing discourse about how people don't dream of labor.
So tell us, what's your dream job?
Darling, I've told you several times before, I have no dream job. I do not dream of labor.
But it didn't only feel like a movement purely for the bettering of our own lives. It felt like a rebellion against capitalism and big business. We realized that 1/3 of our life shouldn't be dedicated to making the rich richer, because our time is sacred.
My line manager put me on 3 7 a.m. shifts in a row. Then I said, please don't ever do that to me again. I'm trying to live a soft life.
Which is what led to the quiet quitting movement, where you do the bare minimum at work in order to keep your job.
Quiet quitting.
Quiet quitting.
Quiet quitting.
Quiet quitting.
Does anybody want to work anymore?
Like working overtime? No thanks. Late night emails? Ignore those.
I'm not going back to the office, and if I do, I'm definitely quiet quitting.
We quit the overperformance and instead did exactly what we were paid to do. Nothing more and nothing less. We realized that grinding to get the luxuries in life just wasn't worth it anymore, and started appreciating the simple pleasures instead, as Tori Story on TikTok put it so perfectly.
Once the rent is paid and the fridge is just full, I'm good. Everything else is extra.
And some people weren't just quiet quitting, they were quitting altogether. In the first few years of the pandemic, we saw the Great Resignation. Millions of people walking away from jobs that were sucking the life out of their souls. We weren't lazy, we were exhausted. And more importantly, we were over the mindset that you needed to earn rest. Where once hustling used to be a flex, now it was softness, living a slow life and saying no to more work. But the soft life didn't stay soft for long. As the economy shifted, so did the vibe. Inflation hit, Layoffs returned, and suddenly, rest didn't feel radical, it felt risky. The cost of living soared, and the luxury of slowing down became just that, a luxury. The truth is, it's hard to live a soft life when you're paycheck to paycheck. Rest becomes a lot more complicated when the rent's due and eggs cost $10. So, a new narrative emerged. I want peace, but I also want nice things. A soft life, yes, but with stability, security, and the occasional vacation. The soft life movement spoke a lot about celebrating enjoying luxury, but we quickly learned that if you want to afford luxury, you have to work. And while it's nice to lay around doing nothing all day to heal your nervous system, at some point you start craving more, whether it's just to keep up with inflation or to live a life of true luxury. Working on easy mode wasn't cutting it anymore, so something had to shift. The Great Resignation is over, and we're in a new era, but somewhere between hustle culture and soft life. I call it the smart grind, because we still want more, but we're done burning out to get there. We're no longer rejecting ambition, we're just redefining it. I've even seen this shift on my For You page, which used to be filled with content creators who would talk endlessly about soft living, but now those same creators are talking about discipline and healthy ambition. Not the grind until you collapse kind, the kind that asks, what would life look like if you made space for both effort and ease?
Discipline is how I show myself love. I wanted a life of luxury. Yeah, I wanted the car, I wanted the bags, I wanted the fancy clothes, but luxury to me means taking my mornings slow, being in control of my day, intentionally choosing who I share my energy with.
Where we once said, I don't dream of labor, now we say, I dream of freedom, and so I need a strategy. This isn't hustle culture rebranded. The soft grind feels different. We've learned from our burnout during the pandemic, and we're not going to repeat the same mistakes. We're creating structure with intention, working hard without losing ourselves. We're prioritizing joy alongside discipline and resting before burnout happens. Now the goal isn't to avoid effort, it's to make effort feel meaningful, to grow without destroying ourselves to get there. And I felt this shift myself. It coincided with my horrible fibromyalgia flare-up in 2019, which if you're curious about, I have a story time linked below. But I used to go above and beyond at work, yet was being paid exactly the same as my coworkers who did jack shit. So once I hit my breaking point and burnt out, I realized that I can also do the bare minimum and get paid the same. And not only that I could do that, I quite literally had to rest if I wanted to improve my fibromyalgia. I spent the pandemic healing my nervous system, taking it easy, and putting extremely little on my to-do list. And I mean extremely little. But this year I've gotten back into the grind in a much more relaxed way. I now have a much more structured and productive morning routine. Instead of just sitting with my morning tea and scrolling on Reddit like I used to do for way too long, I now sit at my computer with my tea first thing in the morning and go over my to-do list for the day and read my personal emails, which then helps me focus on what I actually need to do for the day so I can actually make consistent progress towards my goals, like making YouTube videos. But instead of burning myself out posting weekly like I used to do on my other channel, the Libra Love Lounge, I still listen to my body and recognize that I have much more limited energy in a day compared to the average able-bodied person because of my fibromyalgia. So I don't beat myself up for not posting as frequently as the advice online tells me that I need to do. I'm still making progress, but in my own way. But honestly, one of the hardest parts of getting back into the rhythm after learning how to rest and healing from burnout, not just to dream or plan about it, but to actually follow through. And if you're in that stage too, I made another video that might help. It's about ADHD hacks that help me function without medication. Honestly, it's full of practical tips for anyone trying to stay disciplined and get through their to-do list. Whether you have ADHD or not, or take meds or not, or if you're just a human living in this chaotic world. It's full of tips on how to create structure in your life and accomplish your to-do list without burning out. So to learn how, you can click right here to check out that video. But before you go, I'm curious if you felt this shift too. I want to hear your stories in the comments if you embraced the soft life during the pandemic and if you're getting back into the discipline of things recently. Either way, thanks for sticking around to the end of this video. You're a real one. And with that, I'm sending you so much love. Bye.